Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Retail and Change. I'm your host, Joseph Lohmann, and joining me today is Jim Roddy. Jim is the president of the RSPA. For those who are not aware, RSPA stands for what?
Well, first, thanks for having me here, Joseph. Appreciate it. Nice to be hanging out with you here at NRF. RSPA stands for Retail Solutions Providers Association. We're North America's premier community of technology solution providers serving retail, restaurant, and grocery. And so the vast majority of our membership are the value-added resellers. That's been the core of our membership. The fastest growth area has been software providers, and then we have all sorts of payment companies, hardware vendors, service providers, distributors, everybody with that. So anybody who's looking to bring solutions to retail, restaurant, and grocery, we really help that become a partnering community, help them potentially go do business with each other, but also learn from each other as well.
Right, there's a lot of associations out there. You're a very specialized niche, like you serve a very highly targeted group of people. Talk to me a little bit more about why that's important, why what you do is different from the other groups, and how it adds values to companies like ours, because we are a member.
Yes. So we're very niche-y, and we like it that way, right? Like that's something that we want to stick with. So we're a nonprofit, so we don't have like some massive growth goals or we have to ramp this thing up to sell it off. And so when you come, so for example, we're here at NRF. There's a whole bunch of people who for you or for the RSPA or for a lot of other folks on the show aren't a fit, whether it's a geography thing or whether they're playing in some completely different space or it's massive enterprise or something like that. So the reason we focus and stay, for the most part, SMB, we do have some enterprise as well, and it's that technology solution providers and no merchants, right, there either. It's so our business community can all get together, and you can talk to almost anybody walking the show floor, like our annual show Retail Now, or any one of our members, and either they can help you, or they're going to be one step away from somebody else who can help you. So instead of having this job of, like, it's hard to navigate a massive enterprise and having all sorts of choices, and oftentimes when folks have too many choices, they'll just stay on the same path. Mm-hmm. So we break it down for folks, and that's what we see our responsibility is. We filter and recruit the right people into our community, hungry, high initiative, growth-oriented, and playing in those verticals that I talked about. That's what really the value is of the association. And before I walked over here, I ran into one of our members who said, and they took some time off because of some family issues, and they said, it is so great to be back in this community, in this family. It feels like a family reunion. And that's kind of like a subtext to our association, and I think it's kind of a lesson for maybe anybody listening here. Companies can grow and get big, and that's fine and good, but you have to provide what we call extreme personal service to your customers, no matter who your customers or who your partners are. And that's something that we really do as an example through the association, and we encourage our members to do as well. No matter what size you get, don't become some 1-800, one size fits all. As one of our members says, I'm not 1-800, I'm one-on-one. And so that's like an overarching thing from the association standpoint. So I hope that answered your question, but it's kind of like the whole vibe tied in terms of why the RSPA focuses on that niche. Could we be bigger? Sure, but we want our members, and we're planning on growing, but not so exponentially that it doesn't have that community feel and doesn't have the right niches.
Right, it sounds like you've really embraced one of the things that I think makes a good retailer, which is understanding who your customer is and really giving them a good experience. And you're providing a service to merchants, to retailers, right, with your network.
Yes.
You've got this vetted group of experts, professionals that they can take advantage of.
Yeah.
But you're also giving value to the members themselves. Tell me a little bit about that networking, that community, as you put it. What can someone who's a member of your organization expect?
Sure, so our goal is to accelerate the success of our members in, we say, the retail technology ecosystem. We used to say the POS ecosystem. We broaden it because it's real retail technology, and it's not just the POS anymore, by providing them what we say is knowledge and connections. So the knowledge, some way, is we have an RSPA Academy Accelerate course. We host boot camps. We do some what you would call formal education. At our show, we have workshops, we have presentations. That's like the formal knowledge path. The informal knowledge path is what I call education by immersion. come to our show, join one of our communities, rub elbows with people. You're going to learn some of their stories or learn who they are and what they do. And then you can start making connections with them and you can bounce ideas off of them. So that's where then the knowledge bleeds over into the connection standpoint. And so, like I said, we have an annual trade show that no merchants, again, it's all business to business folks figuring out how they can partner together, how can they serve their merchants better. We have a leadership conference every year. That's a smaller group, about 200, 250 attend that. And then year round, we provide other services like a legal counsel. We publish podcasts, blogs, community IQ, where thought leadership content is submitted and we share that outright. Like, our job is to share the collective wisdom of our members. So we say our whole job is pulling that wisdom out of them, creating the environment for them to share it with us, and then we go and share it more broadly. The last thing that I'll say that we do is, and there's other things that we do, but all year round we share warm introductions, right? So if Crane wants to meet ISVs who are playing in AI, just say for example, we're able to say, hey, we have 9 or 11 or whatever the number is on that right now, and we will go our member services managers, who they know, Peggy Fry, they know Nicole Green, right, our members do. It's way easier for Nicole to say, hey, you know, DBC Technologies, have you met Joseph at Crane? I want you guys to connect with one another. That's what we do.
In a true community fashion.
In a true community fashion, in a no commitment whatsoever, but it shortcuts the time to finding the right people. So again, that's, I guess, I hope that answers your question in terms of the services we offer.
A lot of smart people within your membership, within the organization, and to be honest, you're one of them too. I mean, you've recently been named one of the top influencers in retail, so you have a lot of experience in the retail marketplace in general. Tell me a little bit about that. Where do you come from?
Good question. So the thing that I'll say is, like, I'll confess to you, I do not consider myself like I'm an expert, I'm a retail guru, but I have an unfair advantage where I have access to all the VARs, all the ISVs, the distributors, right? The RSPA board of directors. Myself and the RSPA staff, we sit in the middle, that we don't fit one of those categories. Everybody's willing to share things with us. So mine just happened to be serendipitous. I had my own sports magazine in Erie, Pennsylvania. In the back of the building, I need to get the cheapest office, driest office I can find. That was all that I was looking for. Dry, clean, and cheap. And I found that. It had no windows whatsoever. It was in the back of this repurposed now office park. It used to be, they made burial casings is what it was. And moving into the front happened to be a technology publisher. And I just bumped into them in the hallway. I didn't want to be self-employed anymore. They did magazines, and so I ended up starting to work with them. So it was completely serendipitous. That's also how I met my wife as well. That was completely serendipitous. She applied for a job there, and so serendipity is really my background in terms of how it led, into this. But because I've been a volunteer for the RSPA since 2006. And now we've been full-time. Almost 20 years. Yeah, I can't believe it now. Yeah, now that we're 2025, yes, almost 20 years. And just being in that environment, and I have a media background, and so I'm always taking a lot of notes, like my notebook is off to the side here, stuffed with notes, but it's all market intelligence. And that's what, like, I was actually thinking about that here, like, I am an intelligence gatherer. You think about that from a government standpoint, but that's what we do. We gather the intelligence, but I don't just hoard it and say, I'm only going to put it in my blog post, or I'm going to sell it to people for whatever. Anybody in the community wants to find out, like, you invited me here? Sure, like, let's talk. So that's my retail background.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm very pleased and proud to have you on as a guest, because of your background in intelligence, because of everything that you know. So let's spend a little time talking about the retail landscape.
Sure.
I know in our pre-interview we were talking a little bit about, I'm hearing a lot about closures. Retail brick and mortar places are just closing. Feels like almost left and right. Is that a true statement? Like, what are you sensing in the marketplace when it comes around the difficulties for businesses to stay in business?
Good question. So first I'll say as a backdrop, closures, acquisitions, people going out of business, those are all very loud. They get tons of attention. So for every one of those, when a new business opens, that doesn't get as much attention because new business is open, but boy, somebody goes out, you were used to seeing them, things of that nature. So that kind of helps the impression where even if there are more store openings than there are closings, it just seems like there are a lot more closings. That's one thing. There was also a period of time where retailers thought, I need to have as much square footage, as many locations as possible, and real estate was super cheap at that point. Well, now they're realizing, wow, in order to have all those facilities, I have to have so many staff members, and then I have to pay so much more overhead. And I think they're realizing, especially with the advent of online and e-commerce, and even from a hospitality standpoint, right? Anybody who goes into a Starbucks, they don't need a giant place to sit down necessarily. They have some seats, but most people are just walking in, they ordered online, and they're going in and grabbing their coffee, right? That's something that everybody sees. So I think what the transformation that we're seeing is smaller footprints for the most part, and they don't need quite as many locations because of they realize the overhead, and they're able to do just as much, and people are more comfortable from a self-service standpoint.
So now, is now a good time to be a retailer, a difficult time to be a retailer, or somewhere in between?
What we're seeing is it's a very good time to be a retailer, and it's also a really good time to be a technology solution provider because, like I said, those challenges that I mentioned about getting labor, about we need to do more online, that is all solved by technology. I just had dinner last night with somebody in the restaurant space and somebody in the payment, and then a couple guys in the payment space, and the one software provider said, pre-pandemic, I was begging my customers to do online ordering. And they were just like, no, I got too many things to do. Well, the pandemic made them they went from I don't want it to I need it, like, day or a week or something like that. And so that trend is continued, and they're realizing they have labor shortages. Well, now I need, before, like self-checkout, it was, I don't want to have to lay people off, and I don't want to have to make my customers do this. Well, now customers are fine because of phones. They've trained us to do everything by ourselves. We don't have to pick up the phone and call a service number. In fact, on the shuttle over here, I heard a guy calling up, yeah, I'd like to change my flight. I'm like, when is the last time I called up to do that? Like, I can do everything through my app or through the website now, and that's what they want you to do as well. And so,
which has been a transition from a consumer perspective. Well, from a retailer perspective, of course, you have to rethink how you operate, rethink how you train your people, rethink your processes and all that. But also from a consumer perspective, that transition, there's expectations. You're seeing that it's been a lot more progress since pre-COVID times.
Correct. COVID just kind of had to slap it together, but now they're able to refine what is a better customer experience, right? What is a better way to handle payments at the point of purchase? And what is the better way to have folks fully self-checkout, or is there some hybrid in between? And so that's where I think, again, from a retail standpoint, there's a lot more things that you can do where technology is doing it for less overhead, right? Instead of, you remember how you have to pull wires and install all these massive machines or things of that nature. So many things can be done in a smaller footprint and can be done less expensive, paid as a service, and then it helps really augment that labor that you have, that you don't have to go hire tons and tons of people.
Is there any retailer you look at that you think of when you say, yeah, they've done a really good job of making that transition? They've not only overcome the operational issues and challenges and their own labor transition issues, but also the customer education, the customer training, resetting the customer expectations. I think that sometimes is a bigger struggle than trying to solve the IT issues.
Yeah.
Is there someone that you look at and go, yeah, they have it figured out, they're doing a good job?
Yeah, so I don't work directly with retailers myself. Our members are the ones who do it, but I can say the two things that our members are trying to help their customers emulate are Apple and Amazon, right? They try to get the Apple Store experience, right? That it feels, it's a cool vibe when you walk in there, somebody's greeting you, helping you right away, moving you through a different kind of process instead of just browsing on your own. And then Amazon, you can get whatever you want and get it really, really fast. So what they're doing now is taking a lot of the lessons from Apple and Amazon and seeing how can they apply that to the SMB space. Because the other thing is, we as consumers, before it was like, I'm gonna cut my local mom and shop a break because they're gonna be more expensive, but now people are like, nope, I'm just gonna get it from Amazon. that's where it's really raising I get it from Amazon on my iPhone that I bought at the Apple Store, right? It all comes together. And so that's where we need to, I think our role as technology solution providers is to provide that to the SMB space to help them compete with the Amazons of the world, because as good as Apple and Amazon are, they still only offer, I would say, one flavor of service. They don't get into that small personal service, niche that our SMB customers provide.
Right, I was going to say, even Apple and Amazon, two totally different businesses, right?
Yes.
But the Apple is all about the experience. Amazon is all about, we have what you need.
Yes.
One has physical stores, and Amazon has the lockers and the, final mile. There's not really and the, little stores where you can walk in and grab what you want. It's two totally separate businesses.
Yes.
But they both really honed in and taken a first look. Their focus is mainly on the customer
Correct.
experience,
Correct.
making sure that they are giving their customer what they want, when they want, how they want it.
Yep.
And that's a big challenge, I think, for a lot of companies.
Well, it's also, you have to know as a merchant, what do you want to be? So, for example, I went to a dinner last night, again, that I alluded to. Well, when we walked out, it was in the New Yorker hotel. It was like some very nice steakhouse. I'll also say, side note, I'm a vegetarian. Little secret to everybody, steakhouses have an off-the-menu vegetarian special. Always ask about it, because oftentimes it'll be better than the steak. So,
good tip.
That's my pro tip for traveling. But so we went there, and right across the street was a McDonald's. And I thought, why don't we go to McDonald's, right? It'd have been faster, it'd have been cheaper, we could have spent way less and eaten as many hot apple pies, as we wanted. But why did we do that? It's because we were looking for a different kind of experience. So that's a big thing I'd say for the solution providers, is to say, on the Apple to Amazon scale, what elements do you want from each? Because you can't be square right in the middle of both of them. You have to figure out what do you want to be, and then that's where the technology then follows. What differentiator do you want to have? What customer experience do you want? Now we can give you the technology to provide it.
Yeah, so a lot of businesses that struggle, often it's because they try to be too much to too many people, and it's just too fragmented. But like I said, Amazon is the whatever you want we have. Mm-hmm. So how have they solved that problem?
How has Amazon solved that problem?
Yeah.
Well, because they do, that's all that they do. Think about the different, we talked about, Apple. When you get your iPhone, it's in a beautiful white box, and you open up and it has this real experience. What's it like when you get something from Amazon, right? It's either in some envelope that you have to try to tear and rip open, or a cardboard box that, you got to fight through the tape. They're just doing, all they care about is getting the stuff.
So they know their customer is, I just want what I want.
That's exactly right. And I want it fast, and I don't want it to be busted, and that's all that I care about. And they clearly don't care about box sizes, right? Because, you get this giant box. A friend of mine posted something one time, kid first day at Amazon, he throws one pen into a giant box. You're like, oh man, the kid's a natural, right? But it's a funny experience, but that is what they're looking for. There's a thing that we talk about internally, I won't dive into it here, but it's called the flywheel. Anybody who I recommend reading Jim Collins' Good to Great, and then there's a book that he put together, it's only 40 pages, but it's all about the flywheel. But it's what drives your business. Amazon is one that they have there as an example. What drives your business, and really double down on those things instead of trying to just move in a bunch of different directions.
Yes,
Once you
what are you good at? Identify what you're good at.
Yes. And what are the drivers that make you good at those things? Mm-hmm. And then that's what you really focus on. So if you figure out your flywheel as a technology solution provider, you're not going to accept every customer, right? I was talking to a retail solution provider here on the NR show floor. Yeah, healthcare is an opportunity, but then you're not a niche solution provider anymore, right? You become all things to all people. You become vanilla generic, and that is typically not what a restaurant or a retailer is looking for. They want a payments expert. They want a retail expert. They want a restaurant expert. They don't want somebody who just says, oh, I do all sorts of IT. Or again, you flip Amazon around, people just want the wide choice and get whatever they want. Yeah. So you got to figure out what you are.
They say we're the experts in everything because that's what you get. Right?
Yes.
You're not looking for, you're looking for the access to everything.
Yes.
Not necessarily the experts in
everything. That is correct. Yeah, there's no real expertise on Amazon.
Good. So switching topics,
sure.
real quick. AI, 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 AI. I walked around the show floor and I started counting and I lost count the number of times I've seen the word AI. AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
So my question to you, what are you seeing in the AI space? Is it a lot of unfulfilled promises? Are we starting to see some excitement, some payoff? Is it just a catchphrase that you think's going to die in a couple of years? What's your take?
So thank you for asking me, and this is, I'd say, the highlight of the show for me this year. So I'll go back last year, NRF 2024, saw the same thing you did, AI all over the place. People put retail and they put AI in a different color, and there was all sorts of bluster around it. People felt it was a total buzzword, they needed to promote it, but then when you looked under the hood, either what they were offering either wasn't AI, right? It was, because I'm like, well, if that's AI, I've had it in my phone, in my pocket, for years and years, like voice dictation, it's more, that's just a computer thing. So last year was a lot of, like I said, bluster.
Well, how do you define AI personally? Because you're right, there are a lot of different definitions. So what do you consider to be true AI?
Right, so to me it goes, like I can give it from an example standpoint. So one is, and this is the one that jumped out to me last year was, I believe it was Tractor Supply, and so they would have associates, somebody would ask the associate a question. The associate didn't know, so what the associate could do is, it's like they're calling their manager to ask the question, but they're actually talking to an AI chatbot. So the AI chatbot goes and figures out has all this information that's fed into it. They can quickly glean from it and spit an answer back to you. So that to me is an AI element. Just straight voice dictation, that's not really AI or Google Maps or something like that, because that is just organizing
sort of interpretation.
Yes, like it's able to summarize. Another one is like we have meetings inside the RSPA, and so we record those. For a while, we'd have to go through and figure out, who said what and what are the trends. Well, now we're able to say, here's all the data, figure out the top 5 or top takeaways. It is unbelievably good, but again, it is like, I don't want to say thinking, but it's summarizing and it's weighing. So that to me is, it provides some level of intelligence, but it's not a human providing the intelligence. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Actually, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it too.
Okay.
So back to our topic.
Yeah.
What is AI's role in retail? Are we there? When will we be there? What can we expect from your perspective?
Great. So that's, again, last year it was just a bunch of words. I actually wrote a blog post that I was like, AI is everywhere, but it's not everything. Like everybody was applying AI to it. And I was really disappointed and actually talked to some of our members who are AI experts, and they felt the same way as well. Like, hey, I do real AI. Like, let's not be putting a bad name on it. But this year, folks were talking about the practical application. That was like my mission here. My number one mission was to hang out with RSPA members like yourself and learn. But my other thing was, let's find the real practical application for AI in restaurants, hospitality, and grocery. I won't regale you with it now because my brain is a little bit mush from everything we've been doing. But again, I've been taking copious notes. I have a list, Joseph. I actually have a list of here's how AI is being applied in retail and restaurants, and me thinking about, from talking to our solution providers, would go, oh, that would actually benefit, my merchant, is what they do. So, and this is me just speaking from a personal standpoint. When I see some of those things where it's just like a kind of robot human thing, it's like, I don't see how that really uplifts the experience. Like, it kind of creeps me out, it creeps other people out. But the thing that I mentioned with Tractor Supply, to get an answer quickly for somebody, that really benefits what they do. So I guess
think it's easy to tell with the online chat customer service when it's real AI and when it's just a simple question response that's already been programmed.
Correct.
With no thought behind it.
The really good AI, and we have a member who specializes in that, the agents and the chat, it just gets so, it's been getting better, and he said he's almost had to rewrite his program every 8 weeks because the technology just gets so advanced. But if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. Do you know what I'm saying? But like I said, some of those other ones, you're like, yeah, this is.
It's obvious, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so when do you think AI is going to become mainstream, where it's not just a word that's on everyone's booth, but something that's, the point of AI is it happens and you don't realize it. Right?
Yes.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
When do you think we'll be there? Any idea?
No. I'll quote one of our reseller members, and he said, "We've been good at identifying the trends, but to the magnitude and the timing, it's all over the place." So I'm not brave enough to say that. However, I can say, because I went to an AI and retail conference yesterday, it was being one of those top retail experts, I got a special invite to do that. So it's more than me just bragging about it. I was actually get some backstage access to it. And what they were talking about is like there were phrases, the future is now, this is going to be here sooner than you think. The things that we've been planning on, they're starting to get rolled out right now. And so they were talking about at some of these larger companies, the advancement from idea to implementation, where before in the world that you and I are used to, quarters, years it's measured in, they're talking about in months
Snowballing
or weeks.
exponentially.
Very much. And so, and they're also, kind of their plan is they're saying, take the tool, don't have it fully formed, but put it into the hand of the associates, and they're going to kind of figure out the best way to use it. To me, the analogy for that is, I don't know if you know how they do sidewalks at college campuses.
Yep, yeah.
Right?
You see where the grass is worn, and that's where you build a sidewalk.
That's exactly right, yeah. Don't put any sidewalks in yet, and then just follow that. And that's what some of these companies are doing. So that's why I think if they take that approach to it, and have the associates and the real life experience train them on what's most effective, it's going to be way faster. Because think about if you're running a merchant business and you know that's the path to doing it, like, let's go. You know, it's not quite what I call the hide and go seek method. Ready or not, here we come. Right, and there would be all glitches. But if it's ready enough that it's not going to screw things up, so that's my take. I can't put an exact date or year on it, but from what they're hearing, the folks who are on the inside, it's not going to be your typical long cycle. It's going to be like, it's not a slow cook crock pot, it's going to be microwave.
Interesting, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it ultimately plays out. I mean, there's the obvious customer service aspect to it, right?
Yeah.
Being able to interpret what a customer needs and responding through a chatbot is an easy one.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some very interesting use cases on how companies, most likely the associates themselves, identify ways that these AI tools can take what is essentially large amounts of data and find new ways to do business.
Yep.
Operational benefits, processes that it gets streamlined,
Yeah.
processes that even get eliminated.
Yep.
It'll be very interesting to see.
Well, and there's also, if I can just share one other thing, is there's the data that these merchants have, but the merchants are so busy, they're like, I don't have time to crunch these. Right, so if you can develop, and that's what's being developed, and that's what's actually being implemented, AI tools that read the data and tell you things, then you can go and apply, I don't have to have this many people on this shift, or this is a more popular item at this time, or for this customer, you're going to be able to have a lot of those trends.
So almost like giving it in the hands of the associates, giving it in the hands of the AI tools themselves to guide you and say, hey, here's what you can be doing.
Very much. Where I see people misapplying AI is where it's dirty data, right? Just apply it to the internet. I don't know if you've ever done that. You do a Google search and now these things come up AI and you're like, well, that's pretty accurate. I had somebody early
75% I find it's accurate, and then 25% I'm like, that's not even close.
Right. And sometimes you don't know what the 25% is. And so, like, if all you have to do is Google but do the chat, for ChatGPT for yourself, and you'll review and go, well, that's either like way rounded up or not accurate, or they're skipping over the important part. But if you have clean data that's just customer data, payments data, and you're able to run that, man, it is something. Again, I have a publishing background. I'm a writing snob, and so I can say a year ago, I was like, blah, this AI crap, this garbage, like, in conclusion, right? It just was this boring, you're in communication.
Better, yes.
It has gotten so much better that I look at it and I go, it's better than I could have done it again. I'm a writing snob, arrogant. I've been doing it for, since third grade, been doing that kind of stuff. The fact that the tool can do that, and I love it because it saves me a bunch of time. It saves our team a bunch of time.
It allows you and retailers and associates to focus on the more important things, not the sometimes boring, sometimes.
There are things that your business needs that only you can provide. Delegate everything else, right? That's a lesson. So
surround yourself with smart people.
Yes,
that's a great rule.
So it could
this is just as smart people.
And it could be delegating to a person. It could be delegating to a machine.
Yeah. and let them tell you what you need to know.
Yes,
Love
and then
that.
run it through your own filter, right? You can't just shut off your brain, and that's where I think people misuse it. And so, again, one of our members says AI plus human equals happy. It's not AI replacing the human. It's not a fight. It's the genius of the and, as Jim Collins writes. So AI plus the human equals happy. You've got to be able to blend the two together.
Any sense for any new technology raises new problems?
Sure.
That's just a fact of life.
Sure.
So, any thoughts on what new problems we may have to overcome because we start implementing all this AI?
Sure, I think you will have folks who overreact to it, and
In what part? Overreact how?
that they will just say, well, this is what it's telling me, I guess that's what I need to do. So I've seen that.
So give it a blank check type of a thing.
Yeah, so I had a specialty back when I was in the publishing days from a hiring standpoint. Our organization really studied hiring, did best practices on hiring and using our judgment to hire people. And there's so many different nuances with it, right? Like we could have a 3-day podcast. We still couldn't cover every single aspect of it because people are so different and the jobs are so different and things of that nature. The people who just like plug resumes into and let the computer spit out and go, here's who you should hire, that's a terrible idea. Like, that is just an awful, awful idea because people are so complex, your situation's so complex, it can't capture all those nuances. Now, if you had...
Is that because of where we are with AI, or is that because there's always going to need to be some sort of human interpretation to the intelligence that we're getting?
I think because there's so many nuances that you can't plug into the data. So I'll give you an example from an RSPA standpoint. We've had some folks who have said to us, you know what you should do to help partnering in your community? You plug everything into a database and you let our members search the database. However, we get phone calls that people say, hey, remember that guy at Inspire who was wearing the really bright red shirt? I never got a chance to talk to him. Can you introduce me? That data is never going to be in there, right? But our members are able to go, hey, Peggy, who is that guy in the red shirt? Oh, that was so. Oh, yeah, let me go and make that introduction for you. So that's where I think there's always going to be some, for the higher level jobs, there's going to, and the judgment calls, there's going to be some level of intelligence. The thing that I'm concerned with is, and I see it in, people do it with any authority figures, but a lot of times with doctors. One doctor will tell you, nothing's wrong with you, or you need to do this or whatever, and they're like, okay, he's a doctor, I'm not a doctor, what do I know? And it's like, no, wait a second, you have to be your own patient advocate. So this is where I would say merchants need to be their own merchant advocate. Technology solution providers need to be their own advocate. They can't just say, the doctor told me this, or my lawyer told me this, or AI told me this. Don't blame me for doing it. To me, there's always that filter that you have to run through. You can obviously misapply the filter incorrectly, but don't use it as an excuse to shut off your brain, right? And to me, it's just like, again, I have a writing background.
Then you have no value anyhow then.
Correct,
If
yes.
that's all you're doing.
Then just, have somebody else plug it in and go and do what it says. So, like from an athletic standpoint, coaches still make decisions. It's not just what the analytics tell them. The analytics factor in things, but there are also things that the coach needs to apply. That's, I think, for, again, higher level jobs, judgment decisions, that's going to be there, I hope, and I believe for a long, long time.
And what's interesting, I'll be curious to see if others have the same take. When I use ChatGPT, I use it for a variety of things, mostly, writing.
Yeah.
And it has improved greatly over the last, year or so.
Yes.
And when I see what pops out, I consider myself to be a good writer too, just like you. And I see how they're proposing that I write something, their script, whatever, and it may not be what I would have normally done, and I learn something from it.
Yes.
I go, okay, I like that, I don't like that.
Yes.
And I find myself actually learning from not just taking and using it, right? Not just blindly copy pasting, but taking what I like and learning lessons from it. So I'm curious to see if retailers are going to truly embrace this as not just a guidance tool, but an education tool too.
Yes.
Which would help us all become more efficient.
Agree, and that's where I think the technology solution providers come in, because they're not just like that merchant, they only see their own ecosystem. If you're able to peer inside all sorts of other restaurants and see what they're doing with AI or kiosks or whatever the technology is, and make that recommendation, that's where I think it's going to be really powerful.
Okay. Now, we didn't get a chance to really talk about in our pre-interview, we talked about the history of the RSPA, which I find absolutely fascinating. We are running out of time, so we're not going to have time to talk about it now. But my last question to you is, what does the future hold for RSPA? What are you guys doing now to position yourself to continue to provide that service to the industry, to the vendors, to the solutions providers, well into the future?
Sure, great question. So right now we have about 750 member companies, ranging from the biggest of the big, the Googles, the Intels, the HPs, the NCRs of the world. We have about 450 of those either local, regional, or national technology solution providers, the VARs, and then we have about 170, 180 software providers, though that world between the VAR and software provider is blurring because some of them, some ISVs are reselling other products and some VARs are stepping up to do it. So we have about 750. Our goal is in 5 years to get to 1,000. So, and again, putting a caveat by that, I said I'm not very good at predicting. I'm good at identifying the trends, but the time and speed. But that is our goal because we figure we're so strong right now and folks are able to find so many different partnership connections to go to market with a solution that a all-in-one provider can't. And again, our target audience really isn't those all-in-ones. So we figure if we get to 1,000 and stay true to our niche, that's just going to increase the power of what we do. And so that's not like the zazziest, like, oh wow, what an earth-shattering goal to increase by 250 member companies. But we've seen the more that we do, the more connections that we can make. It really raises the IQ of the entire community. But again, we're going to run through that filter of hungry, high initiative, growth-oriented, in retail, restaurant, grocery, and all the sub-niches underneath. So again, not the sexiest answer in the world, but that's what our community wants, that's what it needs, and so we're here to provide that for them.
Which gets back to our theme at the beginning, know what you're good at, know what your market is,
Yes.
and then go for it.
Yes.
So congratulations, I wish you all the best luck.
Thank you, double down, triple down on what you do well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to learn more about RSPA or Jim, I encourage you to follow them on LinkedIn. We will tag them both in our show notes. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you would like, share, and follow. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.